Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be showing you how to get this Halloween look, which is the spirit of a strangled witch. So if you'd like to see how I do this, just keep on watching. Okay, starting off, I went in with the Mehron Clown White Cream Paint. First, I put my headband on to get my bangs out of the way, so say hello to my gigantic forehead. And then I used a beauty sponge. This is the AOA Wonder Sponge. And I just started to stipple a very light layer of this on my face because I didn't want it to go drastically stark white. I just wanted it to go a little paler than my skin tone, which isn't really, you know, that far of a reach because I am pretty pale. And then I just dragged this a little down my neck and then just blended it into my skin tone because I didn't want it to go all the way down just because partly I was too lazy and partly I didn't want it to get on my clothes. And so I went in with the Wet n Wild Neutrals paint palette and took this brown shade. And I started to use that to contour out my cheekbones and my jawline. And then after placing it down with the Royal and Langnickel Moda Pro chisel brush, I just blended it out with that same sponge. And then I just went back in and added a little more because I want my cheekbones to be really defined. And then I also brought some of that brown just down into the crevices of my neck just to make that a little more defined as well. And then I went back in with that same Wet n Wild palette and I took the gray shade. And then I went along the same places I just laid down that brown shade just to give it more of a cool tone look because since I am supposed to be embodying this spirit, I wanted it to have a little more gray in it just to make it kind of tie in with the ghost theme.
Don't leave me. Be with me.
And then I just built up that color into the intensity that I wanted it to be.
Be with me.
And then to set all of that into place, I used the Studio Makeup. This is just like a translucent setting powder, and I just used my sponge, and I used that to set my entire face and then the parts of my neck that I did. And I wanted my ghost witch to have black eyebrows, so I'm using the Pretty Vulgar gel eyeliner that comes in that little pot, and I'm using a Wet n Wild angled brush, and I am just using that to fill in my eyebrows here.
Be with me.
And then I cut out these little moon shapes out of paper, and then I used some lash glue to apply them to my face because I want to do a negative space design. And so I decided to place these where I want that negative space design to be so I could put all of my eyeshadow and stuff around it. And then I went in with the Pretty Vulgar Cosmetics Nightingale eyeshadow palette, and I took this lighter neutral brown shade and I ran that into my crease, and then I also used that to contour the sides of my nose.
Don't leave me.
And then I'm also using that same brown shade to wrap it around under my eye to encompass where those little crescent moons are, just so that it is the transition shade for the other colors that I'm going to be using later.
Be with me.
Then I went in with the Jcat Beauty Melrose Avenue palette, and I took this Dusty Rose shade, and I used that to run into my crease as well. and then along the bottom part of my eye in that same upside down triangle shape, because I wanted to bring in some reds, and then I'm going to go in with some purple tones as well, because when I think of ghost, I think of, like where they kind of look sickly and like around their eyes look very irritated. So that's kind of the look I was wanting to go for here. Then I went in with this purple shade from that same Jcat palette, and I ran that into my crease as well, and then along the lower part of my eye. And as you can see, I'm just bringing it down a little lower than those other colors. And then when it comes to the bottom part of the eye, I'm making sure this is more precise. I don't want it to blend out as far as the other two colors because I want it to be a nice gradient all around the eye. And then I decided that I wanted to use this color as well around the perimeters of my lips, just to give them more of like a ghostly, sickly appearance to them.
Be with me.
Then I went back into the Pretty Vulgar palette, and I'm taking this charcoal gray black color, and I'm using a flatter brush, and I'm running that just right below the crease. I'm not going right up into the crease, just below it, because I'm going to want this to be the transition from the pinks and purples to the black that is going to be on my eyelids. I didn't want it to be too harsh of a black line, so I decided to use this color first and then blend it out, and then I went into the black shade of that Pretty Vulgar palette, and I just placed this all over my lid and then blended it all together. Then I'm going into this eyeliner pencil from Wet n Wild. I will have the exact shade name listed down below. Oh goodness. And it's a pink color, and I thought it would tie in really well with the eye look that I went for. Next, I coated my top and lower lashes with the Essence Lash Princess mascara.
Don't leave me. Be with me.
And then I decided to take just a little bit of that purple shade we used in the crease, not the pink one, but the purple one. And I'm using that, and I'm placing it right on top of the places where I contoured. I thought it tied in really nicely with the look, just to give it a very slight purple hue. That's why I'm not applying a lot, and I'm using this brush from Luxie. It's their tapered blush brush, I believe, and it helps to not apply like a super pigmented amount of product, if that makes any sense. It helps to give you a nice light wash. And then I realized I still had those little moon paper pieces still stuck to my under my eyes, so I decided to actually take them off. Next, I went in with this Wet n Wild Liquid Catsuit Metallic eyeshadow. I'll have the exact shade name listed down below. It's their black glitter one. This is from the Midnight Mermaid collection, and I'm just running this all over that black I have on my eyelid because I wanted it to have a slight metallic sheen shift to it, almost to give it like a wet look.
Be with me.
And then I decided to just put just a small amount on the lower lash line as well, but I made sure not to get any in those little negative space moons.
Be with me.
Then for lips, I went in with the Wet n Wild Make a Last lipstick in the shade Vamp It Up. And I decided to run this just on the innermost part of my lips and then blend it out with my fingers to give it like a smudged look. And then just to give it a touch of shine, I went in with the LA Colors High Shine Lip Gloss. I'll have the shade name listed down below. And I just ran this right on the innermost part of my lips as well.
Don't leave me.
Then I went back into the Jcat palette and I took this pinky shade, and I'm using that same brush that I used for my powder contour. And I'm just running this along a line shape on my neck to where the strangulation mark is going to be. I'm just making sure that this one is really blended out because this is going to be the furthermost part of where the irritation on my neck is. And then I went back into that purple shade that we used on the cheekbones, and I did the same thing, just not as far out. And then I went into this red from that Wet n Wild Neutrals paint palette, and I used this sponge I used earlier, and I just started to put this in the innermost part of that stripe I created on the neck, and then I just blended it out with a clean edge.
Be with me.
Then I went into the Coastal Scents 123, yes, the 123 palette. I do believe that it is what it is, the 120 Volume 3 palette. And I took those two red shades together, and then I used a defining crease brush, and I just ran that along where I put that cream paint just to give it a little more definition. And then going back into the red from the cream paint palette. I know I'm flopping like back and forth between like a bunch of different products right now, but I wanted it to look a little more realistic. It just wasn't doing it for me. And then I just decided to blend that out as well. Just going back and forth, kind of making like more jagged lines so it doesn't look quite so uniform. I did use some reference photos of like makeup that people have done where it was like they had strangled marks on their necks, and it was the first time I attempted this. I think it turned out all right, but you know, it's like a hit and a miss. And then I just went back in with a little more of that purple, and then I dusted that over all of that cream paint. And that completes this look. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you in my next one.